Hey everyone! Renate here from Crafty Renate. Welcome back to my channel and to another tutorial video. In this video I'm going to be showing an encaustic technique that's super simple, which means it's suitable for beginners, but it's also great fun for intermediates and professionals to use because it is very simple, but you can get great results with it, and it's very suitable for backgrounds, it's very suitable for abstract paintings. So yes, I thought it would be fun to show you guys, and maybe you'll learn something new. Because not everyone has professional encaustic tools and materials, I thought it might be fun to show you how you can get a similar result using materials that pretty much everyone has at home. Before we get started, it's a little bit weird to just jump in a video like this into a lighthearted video when all this pandemic stuff is going on. So just quickly, I'm making this video because I think most of us can do with a break from the constant news and information about the coronavirus. It's very important to keep up to date, but it's also important for our own sanity to sometimes just watch something that doesn't have anything to do with that's just a little bit more lighthearted and fun. And that's why I'm just gonna go on with videos as usual, even though there was a little gap. I'm sorry about that. I hope you and your family are doing well, you're keeping as healthy and as safe as possible. And please people, social distancing is so important. We all need to do our part to make sure we get through this with as little people dying as possible. There have been too many already, more will follow, but it's our responsibility. Every single one of us is responsible for other people's lives. Even the people you don't know in person, you have a duty to protect them. So do your part and we will get through this together. Stay safe and as healthy as possible, and let's get on with the video for some lighthearted content. But first, let me show you the things you'll be needing. I'm going to show the professional option first and then an alternative version second. The first hot tool we'll be needing is an iron. So I'm going to be using this Encaustic art iron that's actually specifically for encaustic art. But for this technique, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this iron. I am going to use the same iron for both of the techniques, the professional and the alternative, just because it really doesn't matter which iron you use, and I don't have an alternative to this. But an alternative to this is just a travel iron or even your big iron that you use for your clothes. It's totally fine. It's going to be clean afterwards. The only thing you need to make sure of is that it doesn't have any holes, so no steam iron. Other than that, any iron will do, so yeah. The second thing we'll be needing is paper, and for the professional option, I'm going to be using special encaustic paper, which is super glossy, if you can see that, on both sides. And it looks a lot like photo paper, but it's not. If you're using specific techniques, you'll notice that photo paper just doesn't glide as nicely as the special paper does. But for the technique we're going to be using, it's not a problem to use photo paper. So yeah, any photo paper you have laying around that's nice and glossy will do for this technique as well. We're also going to be needing pigmented wax blocks. So here are a few examples. This is an example of a professional encaustic wax block. It's a lot of pigment with a little bit of wax. It's very true to color. It stays very nice over the years. It glides nicely. The colors are vibrant. It's really, really nice. They're really nice to work with. But if you don't have those and you would like to do this technique, you could also try simple crayons. Yes, you can totally use these to play around with the technique. They can be a little, how shall I put it? Unpredictable is a good word, so they can be a little unpredictable with how they work. Every brand of crayon will behave a little differently, and even within the brand and even within the same box, different colors can also react differently. So you can have 5 colors of the same box that are beautiful, that work fantastically, and then the 6th color is like, nope, I'm not gonna do this. I am not. I'm gonna be sticky and yucky, and I'm not gonna melt, and I'm not doing this. I was not made for this. I'm not doing it. So yeah, sometimes you have like rebels that just don't want to cooperate. But yeah, that's the downside of using crayons. But still, if you have quite a few crayons, you're gonna find plenty that work really well. And then last but not least, another hot tool, and that's a hot air gun, a craft hot air gun. I must emphasize, a craft hot air gun. So please do not use one of those hot air guns you use to strip paints, because you will set your stuff on fire. That's a given. If you don't want to start a fire, just use a craft hot air gun. It will get pretty hot, but not as hot as the ones you use to strip paint. So you can also just use a hairdryer. Now, I can already hear you thinking, but is mine gonna get dirty like yours? No, this is simply just from years and years of touching it with hands full of paint in my art and craft studio. Yours is not going to get dirty because we're not going to be touching anything. So all it needs to do is blow air, and it needs to be warm or hot air. So if it does that, you can use it. So I'm going to be showing the same technique both with the professional encaustic art tools and materials and with the alternative ones. Lay some copy paper on your surface, get your professional encaustic wax blocks ready, and lay your encaustic paper onto the copy paper. Grab some paper towels and place a few pieces next to your work surface. Turn your encaustic iron up to pretty high heat, and once it's hot, melt some wax onto the front part of your iron. Let it drip from the tip of your iron onto your encaustic paper. Make drips wherever you'd like to have that color. When you want to use a different color, just iron onto your paper towel. This will remove the wax from your iron. Do the same with another color. Make drips onto your paper and make sure to iron onto your paper towel when you want to use another color. Keep repeating these steps until your piece of paper has quite a few wax drops on it. Turn off your iron and grab your craft hot air gun. Now you're going to heat the wax drops and make them melt. It's a good idea to wiggle the tip of your hot air gun and move it around a lot, because keeping it in the same spot for too long could also cause it to catch on fire or make your paper bend too much. So keep moving it around and try to steer the wax into the direction where you want it to go. Keeping it at a low angle in a certain direction will make it melt and go into that direction. Keeping it straight onto a drop will make it turn into a burst that melts into all directions around it. You can also hold your paper at an angle to make some of the wax drip more into one specific direction. The wax in the paper will get hot, so make sure you don't burn your fingers. Also be careful that you don't accidentally point a hot air gun at your fingers or your hand. When you're done, but you feel like you'd like to change or add some colors, just turn your iron on again and melt some more wax into places where you want it to go. Then do the same thing as before and melt those drops until you're happy with the result. Of course, you can also leave some drops onto your work and not melt them. That can look fun too. Don't overwork it because it can get muddy at a certain point. Once you're happy with the result, you'll notice that the wax is dry right away. Notice how the wax looks a little matte or even cloudy? Buff it gently with some Kleenex to make it nice and shiny. It'll also make the colors pop more. Now we're going to do the same technique with the alternative tools and materials. Grab your photo paper and some fresh paper towels. Cut your photo paper to the size you want, lay copy paper onto your surface, and grab your crayons, hairdryer, and iron. We're going to use the exact same technique as before, but I'm showing you this so you can see that it does indeed work with these alternative tools and materials and what the difference is. These crayons from Talens melt really well and the colors are vibrant. But it seems that these old crayons I had since I was a kid do not want to melt at all. When turning the heat up to the maximum, it does melt a little bit onto the iron, but it doesn't drip and it just looks sticky. So that's one problem you can run into when using crayons. And this red crayon from Talens does melt at maximum heat, but it's extremely thick compared to the other colors from that brand. Another example of sticky wax. Whether they melt well or not doesn't seem to have anything to do with how expensive they are. These Cars-themed kids ones work really well too. Now, when it comes to melting these wax drops with your hairdryer, it'll take a bit longer than with a craft hot air gun, unless your hairdryer has a very high heat option. But with a little bit of patience, it totally works too. The thick blobs of that red crayon do not want to melt very well. You'll also notice a bit more texture to the wax compared to the Encaustic art blocks, and the wax doesn't glide as nicely either. Colors can get muddy a little more easily. But all in all, I'm pleasantly surprised by the color payoff and the result using these alternative tools and materials. And this is what they both look like. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you're not a subscriber yet, please consider subscribing, and I will see you soon with my next video. Bye!